thief! No, I'm not a thief. Why are you wearing that on your head then? Why do you look like a thief if you're not? I wear this. You shouldn't profile people on how they look because I'm not a thief. My wallet is gone. You must have took it. Okay, yes, I stole your wallet. I'll come clean. It's my family, you know. They've been kidnapped, and I need the money for ransom. I love them dearly, and last night, a gang of ducks came into my house, and they took my family hostage. They said if I don't bring the money by today, they're gonna eat them. They've already eaten my wife. There's nothing left. I can't let them eat my children as well, okay. So I need the money for ransom. You can take the wallet. You can have the money. It's more important that you get your family back anyways. Thank you. You're a very kind-hearted person. I won't forget this. My family. I had movie tickets in there. I'm gonna go see the Ghost in the Shell live-action movie. What? I like the anime. Onihei is an anime that was instantly classified as a hidden gem, which may sound pretty good, but in fact it's kind of sad considering that the anime is only a few months old. This was a show that came out in winter 2017 and it was a sleeper hit. Only a few people talked about this. In fact, when I talked about the first episode, I basically put it on the map for a lot of people, and the majority of people who watched it thought it was great and everybody else thought it was still just pretty good. Now, this is a show which is an adaptation of a Japanese novel from the 1960s that is set in the 1780s in Japan. Now, the story follows a man named Hasegawa, who's practically law enforcement. He's chief of his area over thievery and arson for everything in his area, so anytime there's something going down, he's got to be the one that's on top of it, kicking these people's ass and locking them up. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I know whenever I see a badass-looking samurai on the cover of an anime, I instantly think, man, I hope there's going to be some awesome sword fights here, and trust me, Onihei definitely delivers here. But the only thing is, the action is not the star of the show. Basically, how the story works is that it is totally episodic. In the first episode, we're introduced to Hasegawa, and in each episode, we learn more about his personality, and even though he is the main character, it's actually all of the other characters in the story who are pretty important. We're just experiencing their lives through Hasegawa's perspective. So each and every episode, we come to learn of a different thief. You could technically watch these episodes out of order, but there's basically two different stories that are being told here. On one hand, you could watch the episodes out of order and learn about the intricate stories of all of these thieves and how their life was basically affected by something else and they had to turn to thievery or doing something else, and it's actually a pretty sad story. But at the same time, as we're gradually learning more and more about Hasegawa's backstory and his family and how he became who he is, it's almost like we're watching two stories at once. Now, for me, the best thing about Onihei is how morally gray it is, because you would imagine something like this where you have somebody in law enforcement and you have a bunch of criminals to be very black and white, but it's totally not the case. Every episode, we're introduced to a new thief or somebody. I don't want to spoil any specific episode, but I will give an example. Like, there's some thieves, like there's a band of them together who build houses, and they build houses a certain way so that they can sneak back into them later, and they do that so that they can get in and get out without killing people. So there are thieves here who try their hardest. They don't kill anybody, they don't rape anybody or anything like that, but you see that they have conflict with the thieves that do, and you learn all about their lives and their backstories and how the terrible things happen to them in their life, which left them with with no other option but to turn to crime. So it's definitely something where you're introduced to a lot of these thieves who many of them can redeem themselves, but some of them, they're just gone too far. And on the other hand, with Hasegawa, his hands aren't exactly so clean either, because when we start to learn about his backstory, we learn in his youth that he didn't have the most uptight or the most morally sound upbringing either. He was into crime and he was doing a few other things like that, so he understands what it's like to be these people. And as we learn more about him and the longer we watch the story, we understand where he comes from and how he's able to run this law enforcement agency, basically, and he's so close to a lot of these other criminals and stuff, and he's able to speak to them on their own level. Now, I'm sure that some of you would think that if it's so morally gray, then you would come across every single criminal, and they're going to be somebody who's good, and you're going to be able to predict what happens, but that's not necessarily the case. Some of them are genuinely good, but they have no other option except for crime, and some of them are actually very bad, so you're getting into the episode, and you don't know the true personality of some of the thieves or criminals that you're dealing with. Some of them could be just absolutely bad, and some of them could have a good backstory to them. It just requires watching it in order to uncover all of these details. So I felt like even though I knew that this was a show that was morally gray and was presenting a lot of criminals to be actually good people, I knew that every single episode I did not know what to expect, and it was a total joyride. Usually something like this, I couldn't marathon it. I would have to just watch it, a few episodes a day and just watch it over the span of a week. But this was a show for me that was easy to marathon. Now, in terms of Onihei's presentation, it is immaculate. They did such an outstanding job in creating this beautiful experience that is Onihei. And the strange thing about this is that it's actually the studio's first work. Studio M2 hasn't done anything else before this, so I can tell that they have some really talented people on their team. I found myself several times in awe of the sheer beauty of what I was seeing, whether it's the camera panning around the village and showing different areas of their surroundings, which they do in every episode, to the sheer amount of detail that's added in the environment. It feels alive, and just they beautifully articulated everything, whether it's small little bits that are inside of the houses or whether it's the tiling of the roof. They really went above and beyond with its level of detail in terms of its environment. On top of that, the color is just really beautiful. The way that they create this environment that is so vibrant and everything just pops. And it was actually almost emotional to me to an extent, because I love my 1950s old Shambara films, and this is probably the closest thing that you can get to that experience with an anime. They did just an outstanding job with that, and I always wanted to know what these things would look like in color, and Onihei is just my answer to that. The character designs were also done very well, also because they are much more realistic than we normally get with an anime. In fact, I wish more production studios would take a lead from M2 over here and just create more realistic settings, more realistic characters, and I think this is something that will definitely improve anime over time. So the fights here is definitely something that I found to be enjoyable, but there were a few times that I felt myself just being taken away from the fight, where characters would leap very high or just do a few other things that just didn't seem to look right within the fights. Aside from that, it's just a minor complaint. I also noticed that there were a few animation issues as I got further into the series. Maybe it was just a time constraint issue or something like that, but overall, it is a truly beautiful film, and it is one that needs to be checked out. Now, in terms of its music, we hear a lot of traditional Japanese music, which perfectly sets the tone and the mood for watching the series, and some people aren't a big fan of that, but I think whenever you have anything that's set within Japanese history, you need to have period music just in order to set the mood. Some people weren't a big fan of the music they used in Shigurui Death Frenzy, and they criticized it for that, but I think it's perfect. There's no better choice for a historical anime series than period music. It works very well. So overall, Onihei was a very enjoyable anime. It's not amazing by any means, but it's pretty damn good, and it is certainly worth checking out. Some people didn't get into Onihei as much as they could have, simply because they're just not a fan of episodic anime, and if you're not a fan of episodic anime, I would still recommend trying Onihei. All you need to do is watch the first episode, and you'll get an understanding of what the story is like. So if you've seen Onihei, let me know your thoughts about it in the comments section below. If you enjoy the review, be sure to subscribe so you can get all of the new reviews, news, discussions, updates, all that sort of stuff. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the Patreon, and you can see all sorts of bonuses like early videos and also like weekly Discord chats and stuff like that. At this point, Patreon is actually the biggest thing which is behind supporting the channel here. So if you'd like to support, it would be greatly appreciated appreciated over there. I'll see you guys next time with my review of Scum's Wish.